Capitol Hill just erupted, and not in the way anyone expected. A GOP lawmaker has slammed Thompson, calling his comment about the National Guard shooting Effin disrespectful, a moment that sent shockwaves through the room. Whether people side with him or not, this confrontation has suddenly turned a routine hearing into a national spotlight event. And in this video, we're breaking down what was said, why it matters, and how this clash is now fueling a much bigger conversation. Stay right here, because things are about to get even more intense.
What you did. Madam Secretary, you and the gentleman from NCTC reference the unfortunate accident that occurred with the National Guardsman being killed.
You think that was an unfortunate accident?
I mean,
It was a terrorist attack.
wait. Look, I'll get it straight. Then you can
He shot our National Guardsman in the head.
Look, Mr. Chairman, will you direct the witness to allow me to ask my question? It was an unfortunate situation, but you blamed it solely on Joe Biden. I want you to know who approved the asylum application for this same person.
Mr. Thompson, this individual that came into the country.
No, I want to know who approved.
Congressman Thompson, I want you to understand. When this individual came into the country, he came under evacuation of Afghanistan under Operation Allies Welcome, was thoroughly vetted by the Biden administration at that point in time, allowed into our country, and then was never followed up. I want to remind everybody in Congress.
Reclaim my time.
We follow the law. And every asylum is supposed to have a check-in every single year, and the Biden administration failed to do that. They vetted this individual, allowed them into our country, and did not do due diligence.
Witness will allow the gentleman to ask his question.
Yes or no? Who approved the asylum claim?
The application on the asylum was thoroughly filled out by information that was gathered by the Biden administration.
So the Biden administration approved the asylum.
The asylum application was put into place under the rules established by the Biden administration.
Reclaiming my time. I don't want to file perjury charges against you, but I'm of the opinion that the Trump administration, DHS, your DHS, approved the asylum application.
The asylum application moved forward under all of the information and vetting processes that were put in place under the Biden administration, which is when vetting happened. And that's what President Trump has changed. Under President Trump's administration.
Reclaim my time again.
When
it's obvious you don't want to answer the question. Mr. Kent, do you want a shot at it?
The individual was vetted to serve as a soldier in Afghanistan, and that vetting standard was used by the Biden administration as a ruse to bring him here. Had we followed the standard operating procedures for special immigrant visas, that individual and none of the Allies Welcome people would have come to America. That's on Joe Biden.
Gentleman's time has expired.
That was the answer.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. That was a murder that took place in D.C. It was not an unfortunate incident. And those comments are effing disrespectful.
The room froze before anyone even realized it. One of those moments where the air tightens, the lights feel sharper, and every person present becomes painfully aware that something unscripted is about to explode. It happened right after Thompson's remark about the National Guard shooting slipped into the hearing with a tone that felt almost casual, almost dismissive, almost like he underestimated the emotional voltage attached to the subject. People shifted in their seats, a few eyebrows lifted, and yet no one said anything until a GOP lawmaker snapped his head up, leaned forward, and let out the words that instantly rewired the tension in the room. That's an effing disrespectful remark. It wasn't shouted, it wasn't theatrical, but it hit the space with a force that sounded louder than any raised voice. Suddenly, this wasn't just another committee hearing. It became a live collision of frustration, principle, ego, and the unwritten rules of respect surrounding those who serve under the National Guard banner. What made the moment electric wasn't only the insult itself, but what sat behind it. Years of political friction, unresolved debates about accountability, and the subtle rivalry between lawmakers who believe they protect the narrative and others who believe they are exposing truths. Thompson's expression hardened, not aggressively but defensively, like someone who'd been unexpectedly pushed and was now calculating his next move. His eyes did that quick scan across cameras, across colleagues, across the audience that politicians do when they realize they've stepped into a spotlight they didn't intend to occupy. The GOP lawmaker didn't back down, he doubled down, speaking with the kind of conviction that comes from feeling morally obligated to defend something bigger than party lines. And for a brief moment, you could sense the entire hierarchy of the room shift, because respect wasn't the topic anymore, it became the test. As the tension grew thicker, you could almost hear the internal monologues playing out across the faces in the room. Some wondered if Thompson had underestimated the sensitivity of the subject. Others questioned whether the GOP lawmaker was reacting out of genuine principle or pent-up frustration from previous clashes that never made headlines. But the energy was undeniable. Both men were locked into a narrative about the National Guard that neither wanted to lose control over. The lawmaker's words carried the weight of defending those who put their lives on the line, while Thompson's remark, intended or not, came off as minimizing the gravity of a shooting that had already sparked public debate. It wasn't just disagreement, it was the clash of two worldviews colliding in real time, with every camera lens capturing their instincts, their tone, their micro-expressions. From there, the hearing spiraled into a subtle but visible psychological standoff. Thompson tried to walk his tone back without appearing like he was retreating, choosing phrases like, "That's not what I meant," and "Let's stay focused on the facts." But the damage had already been done. The remark had landed, the reaction had gone viral in seconds, and the perception of disrespect had taken root. Meanwhile, the GOP lawmaker maintained that razor-sharp tension, the kind that says, "I'm not letting this go," not because of politics, but because of the human element tied to the issue. And this is where the story took a deeper turn. The hearing wasn't really about the shooting alone anymore. It became about the fragility of trust, the weight of responsibility, and the expectation that leaders speak with precision and empathy when lives, especially those in uniform, are part of the discussion. As analysts, reporters, and viewers processed the confrontation, a new layer of meaning unfolded. This wasn't simply a heated exchange, it was a case study in how public officials navigate emotional landmines in high-pressure moments. Thompson, whether he intended disrespect or not, had stepped into a narrative where even a slight miswording can be perceived as minimizing sacrifice. And the GOP lawmaker, intentionally or otherwise, became the emotional voice for an audience that demands seriousness when discussing those who serve. The entire confrontation exposed how quickly a single sentence can reshape a political conversation and how easily a perceived lack of respect can ignite outrage, sympathy, or solidarity depending on who is watching. And here's where my personal insight comes in. The real takeaway isn't who was right or wrong, but how fragile political discourse becomes when topics involving the military, the Guard, or public safety are mishandled. One remark can trigger emotional shockwaves, one reaction can redefine a narrative, and one confrontation can overshadow an entire hearing. And that is exactly why moments like these go viral, because they reveal the raw, unfiltered side of politics, the human side where instinct overrides calculation, where respect becomes the battlefield, and where the truth isn't just in the words spoken, but in the reactions they provoke. If anything, this clash is a reminder that tone matters, respect matters, and in a country where every word is amplified by cameras and screens, leaders don't just debate, they perform, they signal, they clash, and sometimes they show us more about themselves in a split-second reaction than in an entire prepared speech.